You don't need to be an excellent writer to start a website, start your blog, and find people that will find your content interesting, engaging, and build your audience through a blog or your website. You don't have to know everything. In fact, it can actually be harmful to your content to be too academically inclined when you're writing, and it's more helpful to learn the basic, really important skills needed that anyone can learn, that I'm going to show you here in this video. Anyone can learn to build a successful blog and exactly what kind of content you should write about, what titles you should write your articles on, and have your articles be found and picked up by Google and found by your audience, your tribe, and the people that are looking for you and people that are looking for the content that you have regardless of what your experience is. If you have a hobby, if you have a certain belief, if you have an experience or expertise, there is a way to frame your story and your experience through a blog that people will find and people will be drawn to you. So that's what this channel is all about. If you're new here, we're all about how to frame your story and your narrative, and I'm trying to help you do that and build your tribe online. Regardless of what your experience is, regardless of how old you are, I don't care. There is a way for you to do that, and this is what we're here to do. So if that's you, be sure to give a thumbs up to this video so that more people can find it. I have personally been writing content for the internet, for blogs, for websites since 2014, for the last 7 years or so. And I've learned everything that there is to know, basically, about how to write content for Google specifically, and how to do it in a way that Google will pick up your content and share it with the people that it applies to. Now, this is a very specific set of skills that needs to be learned. It's not just a matter of throwing content on the internet and seeing what sticks. You have to learn basically how to find the keywords and the right topics for your article. And because you're competing with you might be competing with a lot of different blogs and websites and big companies that are writing about similar things, but there are ways to find things, little cracks, little gaps in the industry or whatever you're talking about, that allows you to kind of slip in past the big companies and rank number one or on the first page of Google in a way that no one else is doing. And that's what we're doing right here, right now. I have been following basically the biggest names in SEO and the blogging space for many years. And this is everything that I know. This is all the things that I wish I knew from the beginning, all of my experiences right here, all the successes that I've seen in my own initiatives and websites. So we're going to be hitting all the main questions that you probably have when you're considering starting a blog. I'm going to start with the basics. I'm going to go really in depth into what you should actually write about. So the first question we get into is really, how do you start a blog, the actual process of starting a website, and the best recommendations I have. This is actually more technical in nature and detailed, so I'm actually going to put a separate video down below that explains in more detail how to get started in your blog and the best way to get started for really cheap for your blog, and in a way that Google is actually going to find your content, and your website is just going to be beautiful and awesome, and people are going to enjoy it and you're going to like it. So be sure to check out that video after you watch this one. This video is really about answering the questions of, is writing a blog for you? What does it actually take to do that? How long will it take to build your audience? And what kind of content you should write on your blog, all right? So other questions that people have is creating a blog for you, and should you actually do it? And to answer that question, I would simply ask, do you have a clear identifiable niche or category or topic or experience or expertise that you think that you offer? Because if you make your website too broad of general topics, things that you're generally interested in, Google is not going to give you its stamp of approval of this is an individual that has authority, that has experience on this specific area. So I would really recommend that you identify a niche or a topic that is specific enough that people generally would go onto your website and they would want to read all of your articles. You know, who are those people that you can attract that would want to go and binge read all of your articles in one day or something like that? If you can identify that category of something that you offer, whether it's your belief system, whether it's your religion, whether it's a hobby you have, whether it's an experience as a parent you have, or anything at all that you feel like you have expertise, you can write a website and build your website about that. You don't have to be an expert right now. On paper, you don't have to have an expert. You don't have to have all these degrees or anything like that. What you do need to have is expertise in the eyes of Google. And I'll talk about Google in a bit, just in this video later in this video. But in the eyes of Google, it is important to have authority in this area, and you can establish expertise and authority in your topic. So the important thing for you to figure out before you get started in your blog is what are you framing for you? What are you offering? What are you packaging about you that you offer this website and this blog? And whatever it may be, I guarantee you can succeed in it. There is no topic that is too difficult or too broad to really make an impact online and reach at least 1,000 people. What I really recommend is how to find your true fan, your 1,000 true fans, the 1,000 people that would really truly resonate with you and follow you. That is very easy to do on a blog, especially on YouTube. But with a blog, it's entirely easy to do, especially using the methods that I'm going to be talking about in this video. Okay, so if you're wondering if your topic is kind of something that people would actually be interested in, well, there's a few ways to identify if this is something that there are a lot of people searching for. One way is if you can find a group about it, like on Facebook or on meetups.com, or if there's a group around your general topic, like if you're passionate about homeschooling, if there's a group about specific like subcategory of homeschooling, then yeah, you could have success and you can find people on this. If you're passionate about Buddhism, for example, I'll use Buddhism as an example throughout this video, I think, then yeah, you can build an audience and a tribe around Buddhism. If you are passionate about a specific hobby like skiing or anything of that nature, then yes, you can. If there's a group about it, if there are books written about your category, then yes, there's an audience there for you. Okay, so the next question is, how long does it take to build your audience, and what kind of realistic time frame are you thinking about? I really recommend to think about this as a 2-year commitment, and the reason for that is because specifically for websites, it takes a long time for Google to find your content and to rank it and to test your articles against other articles, and for people to find your content, and then for Google to place your articles in the right place in the Google rankings. So that's why it's very important to give yourself time. A 2-year time frame is a perfectly suitable amount of time to figure out it, to build your audience and actually have a good amount of blog articles, at least 30, that are going to be in the Google universe world, and it's just going to find you. It's 2-year period. Many people give up too early. This is really unfortunate. They start a website, they write 5-10 articles, and they're not seeing traffic immediately, and they just give up because it's too difficult. You have to have a commitment that I'm going to do this for at least 2 years, and I promise you, if you do that consistently for 2 years and you follow the methods that I'm talking about here, you will have success. You will get traffic, and it's just a matter of time. So you have to be committed for 2 years, and if you can do that for 2 years, then you will build your tribe. You just will, especially if you are supercharging your process by sharing your articles through social media, through your personal Facebook, through Facebook groups that you're in, and also through a YouTube channel. If you want to do that, I also have a lot of content about YouTube on this channel, and you can check out a video that I'm going to put down below about how to get started and build your tribe with YouTube, all right? So the other question is, how much content should you write on your blog? So the quick answer is you should have at least 30 articles, all right? 30 articles is enough for Google to recognize you as a legitimate website and that you're serious about creating content. Google is kind of cautious. As you can imagine, Google is liable to provide accurate information for the public. And if people are just starting a website and posting 2 articles and then giving up, it doesn't like that. Google does not like that. It wants to make sure that you are serious and you have authority and experience enough to write a substantial amount of content on your websites. So that's the simple answer. You have to have at least 30 articles on your website for Google to recognize it as a realistic, and there's not like a cut and dry, as soon as you hit 30 articles, Google's going to be like, oh, this is a real website now. It's kind of a safe benchmark for you to reach but you want to go beyond 30. If you're starting a venture for 2 years, you really want to hit those 30 articles within a few months, honestly, within 2 months or 3 months. You want to do them quickly because Google is going to see like, okay, this person is posting regularly for early on in the establishment of this website. They're serious about it. Let's give them a chance, because it really is like a competition in Google, because there's a lot of things that Google is liable for sharing on the internet. And if things are just wishy-washy and it's not good content, it's not going to push it to the front page of Google and let it be found, right? So the other thing to write about, this is a big question, of course, that you have is what do you write content about? And that is simply you have to write content that is searchable content. And I'm going to talk about exactly how to find searchable content in just a second. I'll show you on my computer how to do this. But searchable content in the sense that you don't want to write stuff that's just interest-based, the stuff that you just find interesting yourself or is too vague about what to do. Like people like to write articles or have a tendency to write articles about like the title of the article being "This water bottle is the best water bottle in the world." I think this water bottle, but no one cares because no one is searching what does Benji think the best water bottle in the world is, or what is the best water bottle in the world. People are not searching that. But you can say, like, for example, the best water bottle under $10 or something like that, for the best water bottle under $10 for cyclists. Yeah, a lot of people are searching that for sure. And so that's just a random example because I had a water bottle here. It's an example of searchable content versus interest-based content. You want to stay away from interest-based content, especially for blogs, because people aren't searching for that stuff, and it's just going to be dead in the water, and it's not going to be picked up by Google, all right? So the next question is, how long should your articles be? So there is a very clear correlation between long form content and Google's rankings. Generally speaking, if you have longer content, then Google will prefer that over content that's just really short and not very thorough or in depth. So the benchmark is 1,200 words, 1,200 words for your articles. That is the very, very minimum amount of words needed to write an article. And I know that might sound like a lot. That's kind of like a college essay paper, 1,200 words, but it's actually not that difficult to do when I actually show you what you're going to be writing about in just a second when I go on the computer. But the 1,200, it has to be at least 1,200 words. If the topics that you're writing about are more competitive, meaning that there's a lot of competition in the space from other companies, and when you actually do a Google search of that topic that you're trying to write about, there's actually other articles that are ranking first in Google. If it's very competitive, you should write more, like 1,200 articles or 3,200 articles, up to 3,000 words for your article if it's a very competitive space. For example, best water bottle for cyclists, that's a very competitive space right there. I would venture to say that that's at least a 3,000 article essay that I want to write about. A 3,000 word article that I want to write about the water bottle. This is just an example because it's more competitive. The reality is that Google, it's not really words that matter when it comes to Google. So you can't just fill it with nonsense and just repeat a bunch of stuff. What Google's looking for is quality content. And the general correlation is that the longer the content is, it just means that it's better quality content. You've done more research, you've hit more important topics that people are wondering about. But you might think, how can you write a 3,000 word article or a 1,200 word article on simple questions simple topics that are really just a yes or no question or simple answers to? But there's a way to do that, and it's actually a lot more to it than just saying yes or no, okay? And that's what I'm going to cover next. This method is by far the best way to find article topics. It's something that many people overlook and is a huge opportunity to outrank other competitors or people who are in the writing similar content for you as you are. I want to say before I start that this method is called the alphabet soup method. This is a method that was basically coined and founded by a really fantastic group of individuals called Income School. They have a wonderful YouTube channel. They're just really solid people. In fact, a lot of the things that I use in my own businesses and websites and YouTube channel, I have learned from them. They are always up to the minute on what's going on. So the credit for this totally goes to them. If you want to check out their YouTube channel, Income School. They have so much great content on this to go further. But for this video, this is really delving into how to frame your story and frame your narrative to build your audience, which is kind of different. The approach that I'm having here and the things that I'm applying in addition to what they teach is how to build your audience and frame your story, especially regarding your beliefs and in framing your value system to find people similar to you, to build a tribe. Their primary, Income School's primary demographic is people who want to make money online. So that's kind of their main focus. All right, so to get started, let's say, for example, so by the way, I'm currently logged out of Google, which is important because it's not tracking my search data. Let's say that I am creating a website about my religion. Let's say I'm Buddhist, for example. I'm not, but let's say I'm Buddhist and and I am making a website about Buddhism because I want to share and build a tribe around people who are interested in this in Buddhism, right? So how we do this is really simple. If I write the word Buddhism in the search, Google is just handing us this information, basically saying what are people searching for most regarding this search term that I can write articles about, right? So let's start with beliefs. Okay, people are looking for what Buddhists believe in. That's a fantastic article to write about. Definition, what is Buddhism actually? Who's the founder of Buddhism? How was it founded? What is a sacred text? Place of worship. This is, some people want to figure out where to find a place of worship for Buddhist practice. Symbol, holy book, origin, Buddhism versus Hinduism. This is another fantastic. People are curious as to know the differences between Buddhism and Hinduism, right? So these are all excellent things for you to consider. You don't have to do all of them, but you can get a good sense of which ones you feel personally called to and passionate about and have experience with, and just go after it and write those at least 1,200 words content for that. So the first stage of this process is making your list of topics that you really want to write content about for your blog. And you start by searching there. And the reason it's called the alphabet soup method is because you start with your term and then you write A. Okay. And then you write B and you go so on. So let's start with A. And Hinduism. Okay. Afterlife. What do people believe in? So you can kind of get into the mind of the searcher, right? What are they searching for? Buddhism versus and Christianity. What's the difference between the two? What's the relationship with the two, right? And then you go to B, and then you go beliefs. Okay, people are really curious about beliefs and practices, right? That's great. Beliefs about birth, branches. Let's go to C. Cultural landscape, core beliefs, conflicts. So these are all excellent things to consider. Again, you don't have to do all of them, but just start with at least 30 articles, 30 topics that you're just really passionate about and you want to get started on. Just write that list down in an Excel sheet or in whatever notes you have, and then just go after it, okay? So the important thing before you actually start writing is very important, is to assess the competition within those articles. So, for example, I want to write an article about Buddhism versus Hinduism because that seemed to come up a lot. That means this is high traffic, a lot of traffic going to this, and that means people are searching it for it. All right. So I'm looking for the competition and seeing how competitive this space is, right? And let's go to the first article here. As an example, I'm just checking out the examples. So this is hitting it right on, right? Answering the question. So this is an entire article. It's let's say it's lengthy. It's well formatted. Google seems to like it because it put it number one. It's not super long. I mean, it's not entirely long. So I would kind of say that this is like a medium competition. It's competitive. So let's say it's competitive right now. All right. Let's try the next article: Buddhism versus Hinduism. Okay. This is. Okay, so this is just a list, like a side-by-side comparison of these two things. That's not very appealing. I would say that's kind of a low competition article. I mean, this thing is super short. It's kind of like an encyclopedia. Let's keep going. Let's go down a little bit. Wikipedia. This is, of course, difficult to outrank on Google. But also it's not, I mean, it's kind of really more academic. I would say, like, if you have so let's say this is a more competitive term. If you have experience in this, and let's just like make more expert knowledge and personal encounters, then yeah, you can write, I would say, do like a 2,000 word article on this, and sure, you could rank number on the first page of Google, and people would find you, which is fantastic because according to Google, this is one of the most searched things, right, about Buddhism, which is awesome. Let's do another example here. Let's say I do Buddhism A. Buddhism afterlife. Okay, people want to know the beliefs about afterlife. All right, so this is BBC. This is a big company right here that is looking into this. So let's look at what BBC has to say. All right, they have a pretty in-depth article here. It's really short. It's super short. I mean, that's a really good indicator that you could beat something, is that they didn't really put so much effort into it. The thing about this is that it is a competitive website in the sense that this BBC, it has domain authority with Google, and they just trust what content they put out. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. Like I said before, if you give yourself a 2-year timeline, you can gain authority and expertise with Google, and you can outrank this content for sure. if you just put in the consistent effort in it, all right? So yeah, I would say that's pretty competitive as well. I would do like a 2,000 or 3,000 word article on that. Okay, let's do one more example. Let's say Buddhism, and let's put N, Nirvana. Okay, so that's an interesting thing. Looks like people are really searching for that. Nirvana, Wikipedia has something. Let's see what Wikipedia has to say. Yeah, it's kind of academic. Of course that's competitive, but let's see what else is in here. Britannica, let's see. Let's read that one. So this is, super short. This is really short as well. That's just the whole thing. So again, this is basically, I think Google is giving this term, this search term to this website because this website has domain authority and they just have, they're just trusted by Google. And so, but if you spend the time and you have you create authority and expertise in this area over a 2-year period, at least, then you can absolutely rank number one on websites for these kinds of search terms. But you get the idea. This is basically just trying to assess the competition for everything that you decide. If after you go through the alphabet soup method and you figure out which topics you want to write about, then you assess the competition and figure out exactly how much effort or how many words basically of the article you need to write about. And the next question is, what do you write about, or how do you format your articles, which is very important as well. Before we get to that, I want to say, look down here. If you do a search term, you can also look. People also ask, so this is really valuable information that Google's already giving us here. That's saying, people also ask for these things, and you can just check them out. And then you also go to the bottom of the page, and then you can see related searches. So Nirvana, Buddhism symbol. What is the symbol? Man who reached Nirvana. Who is this man, right? So all these things that people are searching. So if any of these things, of course not Buddhism, but whatever your topic is about, you want to go into there, then you can absolutely go down there and figure out what people are searching. All right. Okay, so this next part of this video, I'm going to show you how to actually format your blog article so that it's picked up by Google and it's formatted correctly for SEO, and Google will just really like the kind of format they're using. All right. So the first thing to do is, I'm going to break this into a few sections. The first thing, of course, the title. So let's go with the example of Buddhism versus Hinduism. I kind of painted myself into this corner of Buddhism, but bear with me. So Buddhism versus Hinduism is basically what I'm going to write about, right? I don't want to just write about, I want it to be searchable, meaning I want the keywords to kind of be in there in the title. So what's the difference? This is what people are, so it's really useful to know, to get into the mind of the reader when you are when you're making your article. Get into the mind of the searcher. What are they actually trying to get to? Are they really just trying to know the basic differences, or or maybe they're coming from the approach of, I want to join a different religion, or I'm interested in searching about this or doing research about Buddhism or Hinduism. And you're trying to get into the mind of them. And it's not, and the challenge here for you is how to write at least 1,200 words for this article. So like I mentioned, it's like a medium kind of competitive article to write about in terms of Google's rankings. I would say it's more like a 2,000 word article. So the first thing you want to do is figure out your subheadings for this article. It'll make it so much easier to write about if you have clear subheadings. So the subheadings are basically related. They're related topics on your main topic, but kind of also address the main question that people are asking, right? So and a good way to do this is, you can, if you have experience in this, you can just write all the questions that people have. If I were just to make some up, I would say like similarities between the two, right? Between Buddhism and Hinduism. And then I would make another subheading, which is different, and you can just write them all, differences between Buddhism and Hinduism. And then I would say something like, why do people think are similar, right? Obviously they're different, but why do people think they're similar? Kind of get in the mind of maybe some history or anything like that. So answer all the questions that they possibly might ask. That's what you're trying to do. You don't want them to go to any other article. You don't want them to be in a situation where they're like, oh, they answered my question, but I had other questions, and they go Google something else. You want to answer all the possible questions that they might possibly have, and you just do that. So if you're looking for other subtitles, a handy way to do this is go back to Google and you type in your search term there. And then if you go down to the very bottom, you will see the related searches, right? Okay, so I see similarities. I already wrote that one. karma. Ooh, okay. So people are curious about karma in Buddhism versus Hinduism. So that would be great. Another subtitles. So just make it karma in Buddhism and Hinduism. Okay, make that all and, because it's not grammatically correct. And then you just write as many as you can. Make sure that it's all within the same topic of the differences between Buddhism and Hinduism, or whatever your topic is. Don't stray too far from the main search, because if you do, then you're just writing a bunch of fluff. You might be tempted to add a subtitle here that is a subheading that's just to kind of fill in words and hit your word count. You really don't want to do that. Make sure you're hitting all the subheadings that are applicable here. So the next thing you do is you go ahead and you fill in all of these sections here, right? It's really simple, but there is one other thing that is really important before you get into that, and that is having your intro, right? And your intro is just basically a few sentences, really quick sentences that just explains why the reader should read your article, but more importantly, what is your experience or expertise. You can say, I'm a practicing Buddhist for the last 7 years or something of that nature. Whatever your experience or expertise is, it's good to mention in the intro so that it builds this kind of trust and personality with because they don't see your face in most cases. They just are reading text. So it's nice to give them some context for why you're sharing this, and that's how you frame your story. You just introduce the topic with one sentence or two sentences. You introduce who you are, why you have experience in this, and then we get to something really interesting, which is called snippet answer. So to best explain what this snippet answer is and why it's so important, I'm going to go back to Google. So in our example of Buddhism, if you search something like Buddhism, let's say Buddhism beliefs, right? If you search Buddhist beliefs or anything that you Google, you will see this kind of basic answer right here in Google. This is called the snippet. This is Google's snippet. This is crucial because this is your opportunity as a writer, as a blogger, to basically cut the line of all the articles that are here and place your article as number one. If you can optimize and format your article with the answer that answers a specific question. So in this case, I'm asking the question, what do Buddhists beliefs? What are the beliefs, right? And so it's basically answering my question with a snippet, with a paragraph. And so if we go to this article, it has this yellow highlighted text here. It's basically Google went through this article, and Google goes through every article on the internet and tries to pick out what is the best, simplest, basically concise answer to this question that the searcher is looking for. And that's how you do it. You answer the question right here with a snippet. This snippet itself it's okay, it's pretty good, but if you have experience and expertise in this area and knowledge, then you can just write the snippet there. So what you want to do is just write one paragraph similar to the length in this. You can see that, right? Similar to the length in that one paragraph. It's only one sentence or two sentences at most, two or three sentences, and you just answer it straight up. You don't beat around the bush. You don't have a little intro or a little, you just answer the question straight up like this. It's just like like you're reading an encyclopedia about Buddhism beliefs. You just state it simply to the best of your ability, and that is it, right? Let's say, I'm just going to write some gibberish here, but let's say that's your answer paragraph. That's great. That's like 3 lines. You're going to want to bold that. Just bold it so that it's really clear to the reader that it's the answer that they're asking. So you have your intro, you have your snippet answer, your answer to get the snippet, and then basically the entirety of the rest of your article is to summarize this snippet here, this answer here, is to go more in depth, because this is just a really quick answer. Just get it out as soon as you can. And then the rest of the subheadings, the rest of the article is just answering this. All right, so that's it. And then the important thing about subheadings is you don't want to just leave them like that. That looks boring. I would recommend bolding it and then putting a heading of H. Do like an H2 H2 or H3, it doesn't matter. Whatever looks good on your website, it really doesn't matter in the eyes of Google. Whichever size is good for your website and looks good to you, you make it that. Let's say I'm going to bold it, and I'm going to make all of them H2, because these are the subheadings in my article. And then you go ahead and fill them in. And by the time you finished filling in all of these questions, and they're like little sub articles, right? All of these are little sub articles within your, and if you think of it like that, you're not writing one 1,200, 2,000 word article. You're just writing a bunch of small, similar sized articles. And by the time you finish all of these and you fill in all these subheadings, you have a lengthy article, all right? And how do you check the word count on your article? That's the next question. If you go up to this little I here, click that, it's going to say I have 71 words in my article, okay? So it's a good start. There's definitely so much more I can write about this, and if I just fill it in, by the time I'm done, I will have a solid article. And then you just go ahead and press publish, and you are in business. By the way, if you don't know how to get started with actually making your website, I'm going to put that video down below in the description about how to get started with your website for cheap. I'm so excited for you to get started with your blog. If this video was helpful at all, then I would appreciate a like on the video, because it does help it be spread around and be found by more people. And that is how I'm trying to take over the internet and take over the world, is to create more content creators like you and I through sharing this information. So if that's you, give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them. Take care.